Okay, here we are. The card I have been waiting for the longest time. To me, comfortably the best UFC card of the year so far. UFC 280. Oliveira versus Makachev. Sterling versus Dillashaw. Yan versus O'Malley. Dariush versus Gamrot. And you got Chukagian and Fira on the open up the main card. But then going into the prelims, the feature prelim being Sean Brady and Bilal Muhammad as well in this card, having the likes of Ozdemir fighting. You got Abu Bakr Nurmagomedov, Magomed Mustafa, which aren't great fights, but you know what? There's some interest in all these fights. And then you've also got Muhammad Mokaev fighting this one. It's a shame you would have had Marino Rodriguez in this fight, but unfortunately it's got cancelled. Some very, very exciting fights throughout this card. This card, it's very rare you get a card as good as this. It is throughout of it littered with amazing fights. So usually in my previews, I often go for I just do sort of the main and the co-main and maybe third or fourth fights if they're interesting. But here we're going to go through quite a few. So starting off, I think I'm going to go with the fights which I think are the most notable. So starting off this one, I'm going to go with the feature prelim in Bilal Muhammad and Sean Brady. Two very, very, not big names. Bilal Muhammad, not that far off the title picture, I think, at welterweight. And Sean Brady, an up-and-coming rising star at the welterweight division. Somebody who's in that sort of category of the... you've got the likes of Khamzat Chimaev in there. Sean Brady's, I think, a few times has been calling him out, or has been prompted, I should say, to call him out, especially by DC a few times. And yeah, I think Sean Brady's definitely is almost a part of a division which I think is ever growing. The welterweight division certainly has, there's almost like a passing of the guard, I feel. I think you've got the likes of Usman and Covington and Masvidal and all these guys who are contenders at a point, but there's a point when everything moves on, and now you've got the likes of Sean Brady, you've got Khamzat Chimaev, you've got, I can never pronounce the brother's name, Shavkat Rakhmonov, who's an absolute savage as well, who I'd love to see fight Chimaev. There's so many contenders in this welterweight division, and it's getting even better and even bigger. But yeah, with Sean Brady, obviously his last fight, he obviously got the victory over Mike Chiesa in a 3-round decision, I should say, and pretty comfortable before that, getting the submission over Jake Matthews. So Sean Brady, a real tricky, I think, guy in this division. Fantastic jiu-jitsu, striking's okay, but nothing amazing. His wrestling's pretty good, but I think his jiu-jitsu is sort of the one that kind of sticks out. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so someone who really is going to cause a lot of problems, I think, when you get there. But then you got Bilal Muhammad, who in his last fight got the win over Vicente Luque, a fight which I actually thought he would lose, but a brilliant victory. And then you look at before that, beating the likes of Wonderboy, beating Damian Maia. He is, and obviously fought Leon Edwards, but then obviously had the eye poke, but he was going to lose that fight regardless. But regardless, still a very, very good CV that he's building here, Bilal. I know he's not everybody's favourite fighter. He's quite dull to watch. Me personally, I don't really mind, as long as if you can impose your will in the octagon. If you're a wrestler and you just grapple with the whole fight, I don't really care. It's just about how you get it done to me. And he's definitely up there. I think in the welterweight division, you've got, obviously, Edwards and Usman's going to be next, I'd imagine. Edwards the champ, Usman deserves the rematch. Then you've got Covington who's there, you've got Chimaev who's there. But I think after that, I think Bilal should be there, unless they go for a money fight with Masvidal and Leon, which wouldn't really make much sense, but if they want to do it, fair enough. Yeah, I think Bilal's there. And I think in this fight, this is two guys who are seen as not the most exciting contenders, but you know what? I think for this one, it's a very intriguing matchup. Bilal 34, so he is obviously he's not the young guy in this division, but either way, he is still someone that's there and very dangerous. If you actually look at the these tape, obviously Bilal is 5 years older, but then in the height, 1 foot taller, and the reach is identical between these two. So this really is going to be a very, very even fight. And I think Sean Brady's an excellent fighter, but I think Sean Brady's best chance in this, he probably has better jiu-jitsu, Brady, but I think other than that, I think Bilal beats him in most areas. And to be honest, in this fight, I actually think that my prediction, I think Bilal will get this one done. I think that Bilal isn't, again, the most exciting, but I could just see him. I just think he'll be too strong for Sean Brady. I feel like he'll hold him against the cage. He'll get a few takedowns here and there, but I don't think he'll risk getting his neck taken or getting his back taken. I think he will be very, very smart and very calculated in this one. And yeah, I do think Bilal gets this done. I think that, and a win here, I think should put him in good stead for a title shot. Maybe not that immediately, but I think he'll be in the picture, and I think that's important to say. I think personally, I don't think he beats any of the Usmans, the Covingtons, the Edwards, the Chimaevs even, or even Burns. I can go through a lot of them. I don't think he beats a lot of these guys, but I think you've got to give him his props. He's, like I said, building a good CV for himself, and I think the more and more he kind of wins these types of fights, Bilal, I think he shows that he isn't a joke. He isn't exciting, I know this, but again, you do what you got to do. That's an analogy, and I forget it. You kind of play with the cards you dealt. He's a fantastic wrestler, and he uses that in the octagon. And I think you can never ever fault someone for that. Usman essentially became the welterweight champion by doing this, by using his style, and eventually when he became champion, made the move out to Whitman and became a better striker. So I think for Bilal, definitely a dangerous guy for a lot of these guys because of his grappling. And if you don't have grappling to match, I think he's going to make it a long night for you. So yeah, but I think Bilal gets it done now. And then moving on to the main card, we've got Beneil Dariush and Mateusz Gamrot. A very, very intriguing matchup in this lightweight division. You've got Dariush, who, similar to Bilal in a little bit, is very, very close into that title picture. Obviously, his last fight, which was a while now, beat Tony Ferguson in May last year. But since then, hasn't fought. He was supposed to fight Makhachev, but unfortunately, the fight got postponed. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was the one where Makhachev had to fight Bobby Green. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But Makhachev's had a few of those actually where guys have just pulled out last minute, which is why everybody always goes for the narrative of him not fighting anybody. But for Dariush, though, a very good fighter, very tough, very durable. Not the quickest on the feet. He hasn't got really the greatest hand speed, but his grappling is very, very good. Fantastic jiu-jitsu. And I think, personally, in this fight against Mateusz Gamrot, who is somebody who is very, very dangerous. And I think he last fight, Gamrot beat Arman Sarukin, which is another one who I think will be a very dangerous player in this lightweight division soon enough. I think very close fight, and some people thought Sarukin won the fight, but I think he just seemed a step ahead in the grappling, Gamrot, and I think that's what kind of was the difference in this fight. And Gamrot's grappling, to me, is, I won't say it's not on the level of Khabib, but it's almost as exciting to watch. The way he takes people's backs, the way how quick he is with it. To me, the difference between, I think, a good grappler and a great grappler, good grapplers will get there, but it's the speed of the shot is what I always say. The way Khabib used to take people down, it was lightning. And Makhachev's quite similar, and I think Gamrot's similar as well. He gets to your legs and gets to your hips very, very quickly, and I think that, I feel, will be the problem for Dariush in this one. I think Dariush is an unbelievable contender, but I just think, to me, it's the quickness. Dariush, I haven't seen the odds. I'm pretty sure he'll be the favourite. He's the higher ranked guy, but I think, to me, in this one, it's going to be speed, which I think will be an issue for Beneil Dariush. I think Dariush is tough. He's very, very good, and he really, I think, rightfully is the favourite, if he is the favourite in this fight. But to me, I just think that Dariush, he's almost, he's, again, a very good grappler, but he's a little bit too, he isn't quick on the feet, is what I'm trying to say. He's not like someone who's lightning, bounces on his feet. He's someone who, I don't know, he's almost, how do I say, he's almost stuck between styles. He's a decent grappler, but he's not amazing. And he also is somebody who I feel is a little bit, I don't know, it's almost as if, you know when Conor McGregor once said about people being stuck in the mud? It almost feels like that at times, to be honest with you. I don't really look at Dariush and really look at him and think that he's someone who can put your lights out. And he's someone who does sort of, he's quite slow and ponderous. But, and I say this, he has the ability to get you down. He is somebody who is very, very durable, can take a shot, and I think he's very underrated, Dariush, and I think that's one thing I would say. I think he's a little bit of a quiet guy as well, so I don't think it helps the perception of him because he goes quite under the radar, a little bit like what happened to Leon. One thing about Dariush's boxing isn't the greatest, but he has almost underrated power. Dariush, he can sleep you. His left hand especially is quite lethal, but again, there's just something about Gamrot in this one. You're going to see this a lot in this video about my thoughts on these fights, because I don't know, I just think that Gamrot will get this one done. It's a very, very big shout. I think Dariush, again, underrated, very, very, very underrated. I think in his division, like I said, almost like a silent killer. But I just think that I just think he'll get it done in this one. I mean, I just think that he won't be able to handle Gamrot. I think Gamrot will be the one who gets it done. I don't think Gamrot will allow Dariush to really get him in any dangerous positions. I feel like as good as Dariush is, I just don't think he's as quick as what you would want, I think, against someone like Gamrot. Gamrot is ranked here, I was just looking at it, number 9, and Dariush is number 6. So a win for Gamrot would really boost him up. And yeah, I just think that Gamrot gets it done in this one. I really do. I think, again, Dariush, dangerous. I wouldn't be shocked if he does get it done, but there's just a feeling, like I said, with Gamrot in this one. I think he's got better boxing, his grappling is very, very good, and yeah, to me, I think Mateus Gamrot gets this done via decision. I don't think he can knock Dariush out. I think, like I said, Dariush's heart is very tough, and he's a killer, but I just think that, again, it's the speed I go for in this one, the footwork. I just think that Gamrot has just a bit crisper boxing, and I think his striking's just a little bit, his grappling's just a little bit quicker. But if Dariush submitted him, I wouldn't be shocked. Either way, I wouldn't be shocked. But I just, a lot of these fights are close on this card, and I just think that Gamrot will get it done. It's a big shout, but I just think that boxing's crisp, his grappling's very, very explosive and quick, and I think he's just a bit more astute as well. He doesn't really put himself in stupid positions, Gamrot. He's very, very smart. His fight IQ, I think, is quite underrated, to be honest. So, yeah. And against Sarukin, even though it was a close fight, I think he showed also that he's tough. He also has the heart as well. So, yeah. Either way, a brilliant fight regardless. But, yeah, I just think that I think Gamrot gets this one done personally. So, yeah. And then moving up the card, and this is where I think we get to these sort of fights that get the public's attention. So first you've got Petr Yan and Sean O'Malley. Petr Yan obviously losing his last fight to Aljamain Sterling in a very, very close fight. And then you had Sean O'Malley, who his last fight was scored a no contest / draw because of Pedro Munoz's eye going, which I won't say he quit, but it was a bit conspicuous. Let's just say that he was a bit dodgy. I don't think that person that he was as hurt as his eye was hurt as maybe he's made out to be, but I'm not going to judge. You never know until you're in there, so it is what it is. But for Sean O'Malley, sitting before that though, beat Paiva in round 1, got that win against Chris Martinez, which got stopped in the third, even though it was a bit of a weird one because he was still there, Chris Martinez, but obviously the ref thought he'd seen enough. And then obviously before that, beat Thomas Almeida, KO'd him in round 3, which a brutal knockout. Yeah, Sean O'Malley, 27, and it's important to note he's very, very, I don't want to say young in this game, but he's someone who has done a lot very, very soon in his career, and I think he's probably, if he wins this fight, I think you are seeing as someone who could be billed as a bit of a superstar. He does have a significant reach, a 5-inch reach advantage on Petr Yan, and is about 3 feet taller. Yan's quite small, not for the weight physically, I think he makes it quite well, but height-wise, he's quite small, and I think it's one thing about him, though, he's very, very solid. Petr Yan, in that fight against Sterling, he was very unlucky. It was a very, very close fight. I did think, looking back, and even at the time, I thought Sterling had probably done enough. I think I scored it a draw. I forget what I called it, to be honest. But I didn't have Yan winning that, I do know, though. And I think Yan, he did a brilliant job in the first Aljamain Sterling fight, but obviously cost himself with the knee. And he put in a brilliant performance after that, though, against Sandhagen, getting the interim belt. But again, I lost Sterling in the rematch, and I think he'll kick himself for that because he could have been the champion right now, and I don't think there'd be any complaints because a lot of people feel like Yan almost is the best fighter in this division. He's almost an uncrowned champion, but again, he was sloppy. I think he allowed his emotions to get the best of him in the Sterling fight, and but an absolute savage, but someone who I think must be frustrated right now because ultimately, if you were just smart, I know Aljamain Sterling made the most of the knee, but bro, you need him when he was grounded. The rules state you cannot do that, regardless of if you think Sterling overegged it or not. So it was a very foolish thing from Petr Yan, I think, to do. And now, looking back at it, it essentially cost him a lot because he's had to then go through camps where He had to fight for interim belts, and now he's back as a contender. He could, again, the fight was in his hands if he was just smart, but he kind of went a bit savage with it and was not a smart thing to do. And now against Sean O'Malley, now he's the favourite PRI, I'm pretty sure, and it should be because he has fought the better fighter, better competition, higher ranked, almost like I said, the uncrowned champion. And for Sean O'Malley, it is a big step up. Going from Pedro Munoz to Piotr Jan is a absolutely monumental step up, and I don't think it's I'm doing Munoz any disservice by saying that, because as good as Munoz is, he isn't Piotr Jan. Piotr Jan is literally ranked number 1 in the division, and when you look at Sean O'Malley, he's ranked number 11. It would be a big step up. Before Sean O'Malley, you got Ricky Simon, you got Yadong Song, you got Pedro Munoz, you got Dominic Cruz, Rob Font, Chito Vera, Sandhagen, Mirab, TJ, and obviously the champion in Sterling. There is so many fighters above him that if you can win, he has to fight for the title, because like I said, beating Jan is almost as good as fighting for the title or beating the champion, because he is seen as the, again, even though Sterling's the champ, I do think he's seen as the best guy in the division. And yeah, one will be crazy. In terms of the fight though, Sean O'Malley has seemed quite vulnerable a few times. You saw obviously in the his legs have been injured, like obviously in the Chito Vera fight. We saw his ankle kind of give way. We've seen it before with him. He seems to be quite susceptible, and he does, because of the guys he's fighting, he almost gets away with a lot, Sean O'Malley. He'll leave himself open at times where really against a better fighter they will make him pay for it. He's again, he's a good fighter, O'Malley. I don't think you can deny it. You can see the talent with him, though. The way he's striking is so crisp, the spinning wheel kicks he throws, and the way he measures distance, he's very, very good. But I think in this fight, he's going to have, I think, a problem where I think he's going to be pushed harder than he ever is. And I think he knows this himself, which is why I wonder if he will fight in that sort of casual way of looking for the walk of KO, or if he'll actually fight very smart and very calculated. The reach advantage is big, and the 3 rounds is big, because Jan is a traditionally a slow starter in the fight. And the thing with slow starters in the fights, and this can count for MMA or it can count for boxing, there comes a point where you need to come from behind, and when you need to come from behind, the problem with that is you almost need to force the fight, and that can take you out of your comfort zone a little bit. And I think it's the problem that I think Jan almost had in the Sterling fight, because I think after the I think it was the 3rd round, in the 2nd round he got taken out, and in the 3rd round he was in trying to force it, because I think he knew he lost the 2nd. And then same thing happened. He got his back taken by Sterling. He a few times looked like he was going to get submitted. Did brilliant to defend it, but these are the problems that you have. And I think when you have to force the fight, I don't think it really ever it never works out well for fights. Let's just say that. If you go for boxing, it happened Lomachenko and Lopez. Remember when Lomachenko was down after a certain point and tried to force it, and again, because you've almost started off so poorly, people and judges almost don't even look at what you've done afterwards. So yeah, but going into this fight though, I think the 3 rounds is going to be big, because Jan, I don't think, can afford to start off slow this time, because I think O'Malley pretty much fights at the same pace. He doesn't start off slow. He doesn't come out firing. He kind of is in the middle of, he'll throw a lot, but he won't ever go crazy. And I think this is the one thing about O'Malley. He kind of stays the same pace regardless. His cardio's pretty solid. He doesn't strike me as the type of fighter who really would gas out unless he's throwing everything at you. And I don't really think that in this fight that O'Malley will be stupid in this one. If he does, he'll get knocked out straight. I can see him getting dropped in this one, and I do think he will get dropped in this one. But I think his distance, and I think the teep kicks is going to be big for him. I think Jan, against Sterling, he made mistakes, and Sterling made him pay for it. I think Jan isn't unbeatable. You see a lot of mistakes that he makes. I mean, we know he's not unbeatable. He lost his last fight. But against Jose Aldo, there was a few times where there was some openings for Aldo where he dropped him. But the same thing happens with Jan all the time, is that he picks it up as the fight goes on into the 4th and 5th rounds. That's what happened in the Sandhagen fight. However, I said it, this card is all about, I just have feelings, I have inklings in this one. Shoot me, I think Sean O'Malley gets this one done. I feel he will do exactly what he's done. I think he'll keep Jan at range. I think people will be surprised how good and how active he was. I think he'll beat up the legs. I think he'll go those little teep kicks to the body. I think Jan might take him down a few times, but and I think he will get dropped at one point O'Malley, but I just think he'll keep it at his range. I think he'll keep it at his distance. I think round 1, he might shock Jan. I think round 2, he may get dropped, but I still think he'll do enough then in the round 3, because I think his distance is the problem. Jan has to really be calculated and be smart in his fights, and he usually waits a bit later to get it done. He hasn't fought 3 rounds since he fought Uriah Faber, if I'm not mistaken, so he really needs to, and in that fight, he kind of started off quick, but Faber, as much as I love Faber, was an old man. He was a sitting duck in there. He was essentially, it was like watching legalized bullying is what that fight was. So, yeah, I don't think, in this one, I think Jan needs to start quick, and if he doesn't, I think that's when O'Malley will take advantage. And I don't think, as much as I think Jan can make those adjustments, I just think once you fight a certain way, if you're traditionally a slow starter in a fight, don't get me wrong, it's not possible for you to knock out a guy in the first round or do something big, but I just think once it's like built into you, I don't know how easy it is to let that go and to almost to stop that. So yeah, personally, I think that Sean O'Malley will get done again via decision. I don't think that Jan will. He couldn't again. I'm gonna be honest. If I was a betting man, I'd go for Jan. But I just think O'Malley might do something in this one. I think he's very dangerous. O'Malley as well. He's got pop in his hands, and it's just the reach and the 3 rounds is what I'm going for here. I think Jan really will have to close that distance, and I think O'Malley is someone who he uses. There's some fighters who don't use their reach. Neil Magny, an example, who has a reach advantage over damn near everybody, but just never uses it. O'Malley uses it, and he uses it very well. So yeah. I know it's a big one, but like I said, the 3 rounds, the reach, I think Jan being a slow starter, all these things, I think Sean O'Malley gets it done. Shoot me, but it's what I think happens, and a win here would definitely put him in a good stead to fight for that title, I think. So, yeah, I think Sean O'Malley gets this one done. And then, moving up the card in the same division, but this time with the champion, Aljamain Sterling fighting TJ Dillashaw. For Sterling, obviously, his last fight got it done against Piotr Jan in the 5-round decision, and TJ Dillashaw likewise getting it done over Corey Sandhagen in his comeback fight in a 5-rounder. A fight, I'm going to be honest, I actually thought Sandhagen won that fight, but I give TJ credit. I think he was, I haven't watched that fight for a while, but he looked like he was hurt in the fight. He got busted up a little bit, TJ, but he showed the heart, and again, the fight was close, and the fact that TJ came back after such a long layoff, I know why he got the layoff because of the EPO, but the fact that he did that and still was able to hang in there, and again, to a lot of people, beat Sandhagen, I think it shows a lot about the level of what TJ is. And TJ, let's not get it twisted, TJ, and this is where we're going to have to see if TJ is an old man now. Is he that, or is he still the same guy? Because prime TJ was a different level. That guy I would have loved to see fight a Jan or Sterling. In the fight, I think he got busted up. His right eye was a bit bleeding, but TJ just looked that step slower, I felt, in that one. But again, he did enough. I think TJ, one thing you can say about him, he's tough. He's a warrior. He really battles through a lot, and I think personally, he showed good. TJ has very good fight IQ. His striking is always fantastic. He mixes up the grappling quite well, and I think in the fight, I think he was able to really almost fight through the pain. He obviously, like I said, his eye looked like he couldn't see out of it at one point because the blood was trickling into it, but he was still able to get through it and get it done. And now fighting for the belt. Now, this is where my memory's going to fail me. I think the TJ and Sandhagen fight was quite a while ago. Initially, it was supposed to be obviously TJ and I think Jan for the interim belt, but obviously TJ couldn't fight at that point, so they put with Sandhagen. And yeah, the Dillashaw is now 36, and his last fight against Sandhagen was July 2021, so more than a year ago now. And I do wonder if he'll be the same, if he, in that sense that will Ringwrath get to him? Will he be as active, as spry as he usually is? His movement is usually fantastic. He mixes his weapons up very well with his kicks, his punches. So I do think this will be an interesting one. TJ also is very, very chinny, I feel, as good as he took some shots in the fight. I think he's been KO'd by Cejudo, got knocked down by Garber, I remember. So he's been dropped quite a few times, and I do wonder how that will end up in the fight. Obviously, Aljamain Sterling is not some monstrous puncher or anything, but it's someone now, Aljamain Sterling, who's in his prime, who has looked fantastic, I felt, in the Yan fight. And again, the only reason I think you could say maybe why he didn't win the Yan fight, Sterling, is because of how good Yan is. I don't think it's to do with Sterling. It's just stylistically, I think Yan's a brilliant fighter, but Sterling, I think, is an absolute beast, and I think he's one of the best in the world. He's the champion, rightfully so, and there's no debate about it anymore. Nobody can call him a fake or paper champ. He's the rightful champ, and yeah, in this one, I think, I don't know, I just think TJ will be a bit too slow. I don't think he'll be as quick as he was before. I think it's a long layoff, and he obviously came back, I think, off an injury. So, I think Aljamain Sterling submits him in this one in the second. I think TJ will throw a blind kick, and I think Sterling will do what he did against Yan. I think he'll catch it, he'll take the back, and after some maneuvering, I think eventually he gets the sinks in the rear naked choke, and I think he submits TJ in round 2, I'll say. I think TJ is very, very good, but I just think against a guy like Sterling, who's active, who's looks very, very good, who's youngish. How old is Sterling? I want to say he's at least in his early 30s, Aljamain Sterling, but I could be wrong about this. I'm pretty sure he is still relatively young, though, Sterling. He's somebody who he's been around for a while. If this wants to come up. Right, Aljamain Sterling is 33, so in his prime, essentially. Like I said, just coming out maybe, but... And TJ's 36, so 3 years age difference. Not a huge one, but 36 and 33 fighting terms is very, very big. And I think for TJ, again, I just think he'll be just not as quick as Sterling. I just think he's just very spry, Sterling. He's always bouncing on his feet. You saw this in both the Yan fights. He can mix it up very well. His grappling is very good. His jiu-jitsu is unbelievable. Again, I think credit to Yan. The fact that he actually survived a lot of the attacks on Sterling shows what kind of level Piotr Yan is at. But yeah, I just think Sterling gets this one done. I just don't think TJ will be quick as spry. I think the ring rust will hurt him, and I think against Aljamain Sterling, TJ's takedown defense is pretty good. His jiu-jitsu is solid, but I just think against Sterling to me is just a bit of a different level. I think Yan is able to defend it because Yan does train with elite guys at Tiger Muay Thai. And I'm not saying TJ doesn't, but I just don't think TJ's fought a guy who is as a specialist like how Sterling is on the back, especially. So yeah, personally, I think Aljamain Sterling gets this one done. I think it'll be even at range. I think TJ will maybe win the first, but I think TJ will make a mistake, throw a blind kick, and Sterling will catch that, take his back, and then, like I said, just maneuver and get the rear naked choke in. So yeah, I think Sterling gets this done, and I think he'll probably will fight, obviously, the winner of Yan O'Malley. For a lot of people, I think they like to see Yan, because I think a lot of people still feel Yan is the better fighter of the two, but we'll see. It could be an interesting time. That division, like I said, is my favourite at the moment. So I love to see O'Malley and Sterling will be also be a real exciting fight as well. So either way, whatever happens, whether it's TJ versus Yan, TJ Mali, Sterling O'Malley, Sterling Yan again, it's I think exciting fights either way. So yeah, brilliant division at the moment, bantamweight, and yeah, should be a good one, and I think Sterling gets that done. And then moving on to the main event, and then, you know what? I don't think maybe since Usman Covington won, I think I've been so excited for a fight. Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev for the vacant lightweight belt, even though we all know that Charles Oliveira is pretty much the champion. I think even in his picture, it looks like he's got the belt on, to be honest. So, yeah, obviously Oliveira didn't make weight in his last fight against Justin Gaethje. As a result, wasn't crowned the champion. And in that fight, obviously, he put in a brilliant performance, dropped Gaethje, took his back, got like an inverted triangle, and eventually got the rear naked and got it done. And then an amazing performance from Oliveira. That guy is an absolute... Every fight he gets better, Oliveira, it feels like, and a real... somebody who I just think, like, it's hard to fight because on the feet he has so many weapons. He uses his knees, elbows, fantastic hands. He throws those teep kicks up the middle, throws knees. It has everything pretty much as a striker. And then he's probably up there with one of the greatest Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners I think we've seen in mixed martial arts. So either way, it's a horrible fight. But then you've got Islam Makhachev, who comes from that Sambo style. Obviously has Khabib in his corner. He is Khabib's protege. Fights very similar. I think he's a bit more submission-centered. Makhachev, whereas Khabib was a bit more about smashing your face in. And yeah, a very, very intriguing stylistic matchup. Looking at the tail tip, they're both the same height. And Oliveira has about a 3 to 4 inch reach advantage over Makhachev, which will help a lot, especially with Oliveira's knees and his jab up the middle. I think in this one, Oliveira, I think, is clearly the better striker. I don't think, as good as Makhachev's striking is, and it is fairly decent, I think people discredit, he's very good at that Makhachev. I think it's fair to say that Oliveira is the more cleaner striker. On the ground, Oliveira is very good, he takes you back. However, Oliveira can be submitted, and this is the interesting thing about this one. So, Oliveira, I've predicted him to literally lose his last 2 fights against Gaethje and against Poirier. The fight against Chandler, I literally was so 50-50. 1 point I thought Oliveira, 1 point I thought Chandler, so I never really was clear in either direction, to be honest. But in the last 2 fights, I felt like Oliveira, who gets dropped quite a bit against 2 big strikers, they will they'll hurt him and knock him out. But then again, he's got a heart, Oliveira. He'll get dropped, or he gets dropped. In theory, really what he's doing is most of the time he'll get hit, he'll drop down, act like he's hurt, and then he wants to welcome you into his guard. He's fought strikers the last 3 times, even though Chandler's a wrestler. Chandler to his credit did very well in the grappling in their fight, but Chandler really is more of a striker who tries to take your head off. Gaethje's a striker, we know Poirier's a striker. None of these guys really are fantastic grapplers. Even Poirier. Does decent against strikers when he uses his grappling, but he's never ever done good. His grappling has never been fantastic against guys, like Khabib's a bad example. But again, against Khabib, we saw he got taken down quite a bit and was at one point fairly easy. Not fair because Khabib is Khabib, but you can see my point of, he's not a someone who I say is a specialist grappler. Is my point. He's a specialist striker, and Oliveira has almost made work of strikers so far. However, yet to fight a grappler since his research. He fought Kevin Lee, and it was close, but he obviously got it done. Fought Chandler, and Chandler was doing good in the grappling. How he got out of that rear naked choke almost is mental to me. Chandler almost got the rear naked choke when Oliveira had his back. I think it shows as well Gaethje's deficiencies in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And with Makhachev in this one, a lot of people are mad because Makhachev hasn't fought any contenders. To me, I understand this argument, but ultimately, Makhachev did try to call out Chandler. He was supposed to fight Dariush. He's had fights where he was booked and it just didn't happen. Right? I don't think you can only blame a guy so much. And I've often said, to me, it's not about who you beat, but how you beat these guys. Same thing I say about Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley was beating guys who weren't that good, but he was supposed to, and he was doing it well, and that's something to be said about that. I remember when Johnny Walker was all the hype, and he fought Corey Anderson. Corey Anderson put him to sleep and brutally just didn't knock him out, but TKO'd him essentially, and he was supposed to beat him. And you look at somebody like Khamzat Chimaev, was supposed to beat Li Jiang, was supposed to beat Kevin Holland, and did it comfortably. Again, like I said, there's something to be said about guys who can beat guys who are supposed to and do it with ease. It takes a lot to do that, and I think Makhachev, yes, hasn't fought anybody, but he's looked flawless throughout. He got knocked out a long time ago, Islam Makhachev, and I think it was one of those flash knockouts, really. It was obviously against Adriano Martins, who Makhachev got a bit overzealous and got caught, and I think it's the best thing that happened to him, because since then, Makhachev has made some brilliant adjustments, and is it 11 fight win streak? I don't know what the win streak is, but it's big. His last fight, obviously, beating Bobby Green with the TKO in the first round by just ending it via ground and pound. And I think Makhachev, I know people want to admit it, he is the number one contender. There is nobody else, really. Oliveira's already beaten Poirier and Gaethje and Chandler. Dariush is yet to really, I can say with Makhachev, but I think Dariush doesn't have really the hype that Makhachev has and isn't beating guys as impressively as Makhachev is. And I think that's the thing. But yeah, obviously Makhachev, a Sambo world champion. A guy who, Abdulmanap, Khabib's father, once said that he felt like his dream was for Khabib to retire at 30, Unfortunately, obviously he passed, so he couldn't only do it at 29. And then for Makhachev to take the belt. So Makhachev has always been up there with Khabib, as what's been told. A lot of people feel like he's actually better than Khabib, which is a big thing, but I think for Makhachev in this one, so looking at both of these guys, for Oliveira, I think the key would be to keep this on the feet, obviously. He's a better striker. Keep it at range. And I know Oliveira is fantastic at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but realistically, you don't want to get taken down by Makhachev, regardless of how good you are on your back. Because, we've seen the likes of Poirier. I know Poirier Oliveira's Jiu-Jitsu is nowhere near the same, but he got the guillotine on Khabib, and again, guillotines are very, very tricky to get in MMA because it takes a lot of squeezing and a lot of strength to try and pull it off. And it's not like a rear naked where you're going to go out eventually anyway. Guillotines are different, and I think again he wasn't able to get Poirier and end up on his back and end up in Khabib's world. And I think for Makhachev, it's a similar thing. I wouldn't try to pull any like quick submissions out against him. I think if you're going to do it, you need to be very smart and economical about this, Oliveira. I think if you keep the striking, and then maybe if Makhachev presents an opportunity, Makhachev has had moments where he was on bottom or presents his back. That's when I think if you're Oliveira, you take that opportunity. And for Makhachev, I think you mix it up. I think Oliveira knows you're going to go for a takedown, and there's an advantage to that. You can surprise him on the feet. I could see Makhachev maybe dropping Oliveira at one point, because Oliveira, even though he does do that thing where he gets you going his guard, he's still... There are fights where he legitimately has been dropped. It's just he'll mixes it in with also him not getting dropped, so it kind of looks like you never know when he does get dropped or not. But yeah, I think that in this fight though, I just think it's so intriguing. It's like the Tony Ferguson Khabib fight we never got, almost in a higher level to an extent. And yeah, a real intriguing fight though. And I think for Oliveira, like I said, if you can keep it standing, keep it on the end, and then eventually just be smart. Don't try and force a submission, I think is the main thing I would say. And I think for Makhachev, if you can, like I said, keep it mixed with the striking, and then the takedowns usually present itself for Makhachev in fights. He's he's not someone who will get the like a Chimaev will get it straight away. He kind of builds and uses the pressure, and eventually once he tires you out, then we'll get the submission. And again, he's more submission based, Makhachev, whereas Khabib was a bit more ground and pound based. It's such an intriguing fight. It's 60-40 to me, a very, very close fight in this one. Like I said, I think Oliveira is elite. I think he is the champion. He does keep his striking so crisp. He has some more weapons than Makhachev, really. He's more dangerous on the ground. I think he's got that ability to take your neck, take your back. And I put a comment, I forget what video it was, but I put a comment on the video about Oliveira and Makhachev and saying that Oliveira is elite. But when Khabib was going to fight Tony, I always thought Tony Ferguson's great, but he makes too many mistakes. And when you have a guy like that against a guy like Khabib who makes virtually no mistakes in there, I always go with that one. And I think the same for Makhachev Oliveira. Oliveira is very good, but let's not get it twisted. He does sometimes get dropped. He does make mistakes in fights. It's just that he's so dangerous, and so his fight IQ is actually very underrated. I'll give him this, Oliveira. And when Gaethje was throwing those calf kicks, he was able to counter it, but constantly hitting him with the 1-2 every time he got hit with it, and was almost deferring Gaethje from throwing them. And again, if it comes into a war, I could easily see Oliveira dropping Makhachev in this one, because Oliveira's got fantastic hands. He's very straight. His technique's fantastic. However, I just think Makhachev will get it done. I think he gets a submission in round 3, Makhachev. Oliveira has been submitted quite a few times. Pettis submitted him not long ago. We'll have to go back a bit with Oliveira to remember. He's been fighting a long time, Oliveira. We all know this. He's been somebody who's had a lot of ups and downs, as everybody knows. This is why we all like him. He, I want to say, was it Jim Miller who submitted him? I forget now. My head's starting to go a bit. But obviously he got knocked out a few times. Got knocked out by Max Holloway. Yeah, got submitted by Ricardo Lamas. Got submitted by Anthony Pettis. And was able, and obviously got knocked out by Paul Fell. So again, a lot of up and downs. Yeah, it was Jim Miller who got him. He submitted him in the first round in their fight. Oh no, wrong way, other way around. It was him that submitted Jim Miller in the fight. And it was the other fights where he got submitted. So he has been submitted, Oliveira. So he isn't. His jiu-jitsu is fantastic offensively, but defensively sometimes it can be a lot to left aside. I do think he's obviously a lot better now than he was, and I think it's a complete different fight to what he used to be. But I think Makhachev mixes it up. I think he may drop Oliveira at points. I think he'll get him down, and I think he'll do what Khabib can do to McGregor, keep him there. as good as Oliveira is, he does tire everybody. Tires under the pressure, especially with someone like Makhachev, who I think physically as well, Makhachev is a lot bigger than Oliveira. Oliveira used to fight at 45. Makhachev is never ever making that weight. I don't think Makhachev is very, very big for the weight, and I think again this one I think he'll get tired in the first Oliveira, and I think you'll start to see the output slow down. I think you'll get a takedown Makhachev, and I think in the third round Oliveira will have some success. I can see maybe catching Makhachev with a knee, and maybe at one point getting him in a guillotine. But I just think again Makhachev will fight his way out of it, and then once that happens, I think Makhachev gets him down again. I could see him almost doing maneuvering a little bit and landing some ground upon, and eventually I could see him then getting Oliveira's back. And I'd like to believe this Oliveira is different, so maybe he won't tap, but maybe I could just see him going to sleep. So yeah, I think Islam Makhachev submits Charles Oliveira in the third round, and I think we have a new champion. If Oliveira were to win, I would say I think he would equal. Well, actually, no. Maybe even surpass. I probably would surpass Khabib as the GOAT, because you're meeting essentially his protege. So yeah, as the lightweight GOAT, that is not as the overall, obviously. Yeah, I think Oliveira going to Abu Dhabi is a huge fight. He's got to have everybody against him. He obviously, to me, he's the unofficial champion pretty much. And yeah, there's a lot on the line for him in this fight. Same for Makhachev. A lot of pressure on both of these guys. But yeah, again, Oliveira, if Oliveira wins, and I won't be shocked if he does, he could put himself as the lightweight GOAT. It's a very close fight. Let's not get it twisted. It's not like one the other. I think this is very, very close. This could go either way. But I just can't see Makhachev really getting submitted or knocked out, really. I think, personally, it takes Makhachev quite a few times to really get that submission, but I just think eventually he's persistent. He'll keep getting it, keep going for the takedown. As good as Oliveira's submission game is, I just think eventually the way that Sambo style is, they also Khabib and Makhachev, and a lot of people are very confident that his jiu-jitsu just won't work against him. And these aren't, say what you want, I know people sometimes are a bit mixed on the Dagestani community and the fighters. They're very smart. They know there's never been a point where I felt like Khabib ever put himself in a stupid position. The weight placement, the body plate, they know exactly what to do. And I think that Sambo style, I just think that there's something about it which I think makes it hard for these Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys. Again, I wouldn't be shocked if Oliveira got submission, but I just think there's something there where I think they'll have the antidote for Oliveira's submission and jiu-jitsu game is my point. But yeah, an amazing night of fights though, and like I said, very, very exciting to see what happens in this this card. All amazing fights. You've got 2 title fights. One fight is essentially a number 1 contender fight. If Dariush wins, that might even be a number 1 contender. Even the Sean Brady Bilal, to a certain extent, if you can even see that, maybe as a contender fight. But yeah, a brilliant night of fights, and card of the year, Abu Dhabi is a real exciting card. And yeah, thankfully nobody's got injured yet, so touch wood. I'm filming this on a Tuesday. Hopefully nobody else gets injured. And brilliant card, UFC 280. I'll do a review afterwards. And yeah, until next time.